We are sold a story about love, a powerful and often painful narrative that begins in our childhood. We are taught that love is supposed to hurt, that when you truly care for someone, a paralyzing fear of losing them is not just normal, but a testament to the depth of your affection. The message is clear: to love is to need, to cling, to depend. But the brilliant psychologist Carl Jung left us with a truth as liberating as it is unsettling, a truth that few dare to fully accept. What we so often call love is not love at all. It is attachment, a raw and primal fear wearing a beautiful disguise. When you find yourself attached to someone, it is never just because you love them. It is because, in the silent, honest chambers of your own heart, you feel that without this person, you are fundamentally incomplete. There is a gnawing sense that without their constant presence, your life loses its color and its meaning. You begin to believe that without their validation, your own value as a person diminishes. You live with a quiet terror that without their love, something essential inside of you will shatter. But let us be clear, for your freedom depends on this distinction. This is not the language of love. This is the architecture of emotional dependence. Real love is an act of expansion, not enslavement. It is the joy of sharing your wholeness, not the desperation of trying to fill your emptiness. It is choosing to walk beside someone in total freedom, not needing them to stand up straight. Yet, most people live their lives confusing love with attachment, because their experiences have been shaped by relationships where the fear of loss was always more powerful than the joy of connection. And so, this is where I invite you to pause and ask yourself the most important question. Do you truly love this person for who they are, or are you simply terrified of the person you might have to become without them? How attachment wears the mask of love. Attachment is more insidious than simply feeling you need someone in your life. Attachment is the profound, gut-wrenching feeling that without this person, you lose an integral part of yourself. It is dangerously easy to justify this feeling, to wrap it in the noble language of romance. It is easy to say, I just love them so much that I can't imagine my life without them. But the problem is not in the depth of your love. The problem is in the mistaken belief that without them, love itself vanishes from your world. When you locate the source of love in another person instead of within yourself, you willingly become a prisoner of that bond. When you believe you need someone else to feel valuable, your happiness becomes a fragile thing, entirely dependent on the shifting moods and choices of another. When you feel that without them, you lose all stability, it means you were using them as an anchor, not to complement your own strength, but to keep your ship from sinking. And here we arrive at the hardest truth to swallow. When attachment is the ruler of your life, fear becomes the engine of your relationship. A constant, low-grade hum of anxiety dictates your every move. It is the fear that they will change, the fear that they will pull away, the fear that they will stop loving you, the fear that one day, for any reason or no reason at all, they will simply be gone. This is not the energy of love. This is the corrosive, exhausting energy of fearing loss. The dynamic is simple. When you love, you add to someone's life, and they add to yours. When you are attached, you cling, you grasp, you try to extract. The difference between love and attachment, once you see it, is as stark as night and day. Love grants you the freedom to be your most authentic self, without the constant anxiety of being abandoned for it. Attachment, however, whispers that without the other person, you are simply not enough. Love flows like a river, nourishing and ever-changing. Attachment is a dam, holding everything back in a stagnant pool of fear. Love is free. Attachment is possessive. Love is a beautiful complement to a life already whole. Attachment is a dependency that masks an inner void. If the thought of being without this person makes you feel that you would utterly fall apart, that is your soul's most urgent signal. It is not a sign of how much you love them. It is a sign that you have placed the keys to your own happiness in someone else's pocket. This is the moment where detachment becomes not a cruel act of separation, but a vital act of self-reclamation. It is not about pushing the person away. It is about recovering the most important and sacred relationship you will ever have, the one you have with yourself. Because when you are emotionally dependent on another, you surrender the control of your own well-being. If they stay, you feel a temporary surge of joy. If they leave, you are plunged into despair. And in the quietest moments, you know this is no way to live. Loving without depending, the balance few achieve. Carl Jung wisely noted that love does not need to possess. It only needs to understand. When you learn to love from a place of deep, genuine connection rather than anxious dependency, the compulsive need to control the other person simply melts away. When you fully internalize that no one else is responsible for your happiness, the desperate clinging ceases. When you realize that love is not a scarce commodity that can be depleted, you stop living in fear that it will run out. Because real love is not fear. It is not a constant state of anxiety. It is not a knot of anguish in your stomach at the mere possibility of loss. Real love is freedom. It is peace. It is a spaciousness that allows both people to grow and evolve, together and apart. But to truly experience this kind of liberating love, you must first free yourself from the chains of attachment. You must learn the courageous art of letting go without the paralyzing fear of loss. You must understand that detachment is not about losing something precious, but about reclaiming something invaluable, your own inner peace. And this brings us to the pivotal question that can change everything. How do you let go without feeling like you are losing a vital part of yourself? How do you release your grip without being left in a vast, empty void? That is the journey we are about to embark upon. Because detaching from someone is not about giving up on love. It is about finally, completely, and triumphantly recovering yourself. Why letting go is not an act of losing, but the ultimate act of reclaiming your freedom. Letting go is, without question, one of the most profoundly difficult experiences a human being can face. From our earliest moments, we are woven into a cultural tapestry that teaches us a specific story about love. That true love is the kind that lasts forever, a fortress built against the sands of time. We are taught that when someone truly matters, we must do everything in our power to keep them close, to hold on tighter when they pull away, to fight for a bond even when the battle depletes us. We have been systematically conditioned to believe that detachment is synonymous with failure, that letting go is the ultimate act of losing. But here lies a truth so powerful and liberating that it can dismantle the very foundation of our suffering, a truth that few are brave enough to fully embrace. Letting go of someone does not mean you are losing. It means you are finally freeing yourself from the insidious idea that your happiness, your worth, and your very existence depend on their presence. Because love, in its purest form, should never feel like a prison. It should be a sanctuary, not a cage. You should not have to live your days in a state of low-grade, constant fear that this person will change, that they will walk away, that one day they will wake up and decide to take another path. When fear dominates a connection, love ceases to be a gift and becomes a heavy, crushing burden. The great psychologist Carl Jung offered a profound insight when he said that nothing has a stronger psychological influence on its environment than the unlived life of a parent. This powerful truth extends far beyond the parent-child dynamic. It applies to any relationship where one person suppresses their own spirit. When you sacrifice your core essence to be with someone, when you methodically abandon pieces of yourself to sustain a bond, when you choose to stay where you are no longer happy out of a paralyzing fear of letting go, you are actively giving up on your own life. You are silencing the music of your own soul. And that, in the end, is the only real loss there is. The fear of letting go, unmasking dependence disguised as love. If the mere thought of letting someone go fills you with a primal terror, a cold dread that spreads through your entire body, it is time to ask yourself a question with unflinching honesty. Is it truly love that binds you to this person, or is it a deep-seated fear of being alone? We often tell ourselves a convincing story. We believe we cannot let someone go because our love for them is just too immense, too powerful to sever. But if you have the courage to dive deeper into that turbulent emotion, to look beneath the surface of that so-called love, you will often discover that what truly holds you back is a collection of fears. It is the fear of not finding another person with whom you can connect. It is the fear of finally having to face yourself in the silence, without the welcome distraction of a relationship. It is the fear that the emptiness you have long suspected resides within you will grow into an all-consuming chasm. But here is the beautiful and liberating irony. That void you fear was already there long before this person ever entered your life. It is not a wound they created upon their departure. It is an older, deeper space within you. The only difference is that by being with someone, you found a way to disguise it. You believed their love filled it, that their presence was the cure for your inner ache. You projected onto them the power to make you whole. But the truth is, no one outside of you can ever fill a void that only you can heal. Their presence was a beautiful distraction, but never the solution. Letting go of someone does not invalidate their importance. It does not mean you are required to erase what you experienced or pretend the love did not exist. It is not an act of erasure, but an act of profound self-honor. It means you are finally choosing to put yourself first. It means you are choosing your own inner peace over a dynamic that slowly consumes you. It means you are choosing to reclaim your precious energy instead of continuing to pour it into someone who is no longer emotionally present or available. It means you are choosing to bravely move forward instead of remaining trapped in the museum of what once was. The great shift, letting go to stop suffering, not to stop loving. Many people operate under a painful misconception. They believe that detaching from someone requires them to become cold, to sever all ties with a brutal finality, and to actively forget everything that was ever lived. But true, healthy detachment is not a reflection of a lack of love. It is the highest form of it. You can let someone go and continue to hold a deep appreciation for what they meant in your life and the lessons they taught you. You can move forward without the heavy baggage of resentment. You can build a new future without trying to burn down the past, but also without being a prisoner to it. The fundamental difference between letting go with love and letting go with prolonged suffering lies entirely in how you interpret the farewell. If you perceive detachment as a personal loss, it will ache with the ferocity of something being torn away from you, something that you believe belonged to you. But if you can reframe it as the ultimate act of love toward yourself, as the golden opportunity to recover your own space, your own energy, your own glorious freedom, then letting go ceases to be a painful ending. It becomes a wide open door. The agony of attachment, when you cling, You chain yourself if you have ever found yourself trying to hold on to a relationship at all costs, desperately trying to piece together something that has already fractured. You know the exquisite agony of clinging. You know that the more desperately you cling, the more you suffer. The more you try to hold on to someone who clearly wants to leave, the more you deplete your own life force. The more you fight to resuscitate something that has already died, the more you frustrate your own spirit. This is because attachment does not strengthen bonds, it suffocates them. It injects the poison of fear into what should be a space of trust and freedom. If a love is real, it does not need to be forced into existence. If a connection is genuine, it is sustained by mutual, enthusiastic choice, not by the fear of being alone. If a person truly wants to be a part of your life, they will be there, without you having to exhaust yourself trying to convince them of your worth. This is precisely why, when you cling to someone who is no longer emotionally present, you chain yourself not to them, but to an illusion. You become trapped in the ghost of a relationship, the idea of what it once was, the fantasy of what it could have been, the memory of a version of that person you once knew, a version that perhaps no longer even exists. So, I ask you, how much longer do you plan to hold on to what has already gone? How much more of your precious, finite energy are you going to waste on someone who has, in all likelihood, already moved on? The homecoming, letting go, is reclaiming your power. The moment you truly let go, you have a profound realization. The only person you have ever truly needed in your life is yourself. This is not a cynical or lonely thought. It is the most empowering realization you can have. It is not that others do not matter, but that your own self, love, is the non-negotiable foundation upon which all healthy relationships must be built. You cannot truly love from a place of deep internal lack. You cannot genuinely share your life with another if you do not first belong to yourself. You cannot build a strong, resilient bond with anyone if the ghost of your fear of losing them is always present in the room. Letting go is not losing. It is the ultimate act of recovery. It is recovering your sacred space. It is choosing yourself again, perhaps for the first time. It is opening yourself up to a universe of new possibilities that you were blind to while you were so focused on the one closing door. It is about learning to trust that what is truly meant for you will find its way to you, without the need for forcing, chasing, or clinging. And so, the choice is yours. Are you going to continue clinging to what no longer is, or are you finally ready to reclaim your power? The art of healing, how to mend without closing your heart when we lose someone who has held a significant place in our lives. The pain is not just likely, it is inevitable. It can feel as if something fundamental inside of us breaks, as if a part of our very identity crumbles into dust with the sudden absence of that person. It is in this raw, vulnerable state that many people make the biggest mistake of their healing journey. They choose one of two paths. Either they get stuck in the quicksand of their suffering, reliving the past over and over again, allowing their pain to become their identity, or they become emotionally frozen, building a fortress of ice around their heart, closing themselves off to love entirely so as not to feel that pain ever again. But Carl Jung provided us with the master key to unlocking this process. What you resist persists. What you accept transforms you. If you try to heal by ignoring what you feel, by pushing the pain down into the basement of your psyche, you are only giving it more power. It will not disappear. It will simply fester in the dark, and sooner or later it will emerge again, disguised as chronic anxiety, a deep-seated distrust of others, or a crippling insecurity. True healing is not about forgetting. It is not about repressing. True healing is about learning to feel the full spectrum of your emotions without becoming trapped and defined by them. The key is to allow yourself to live the process, without being afraid of what it might awaken within you. Our society often promotes a culture of rapid emotional recovery. We are bombarded with messages that tell us to get over it, that time heals all wounds, that we must be strong, and that moving on is simply a matter of distracting ourselves and not thinking about it too much. But this is not healing. This is a sophisticated form of evasion. The pain you do not allow yourself to process does not vanish. It stays inside you, calcifying into resentment, metastasizing into a fear of trusting again, becoming the very bricks you use to build a wall between yourself and the possibility of future love. Have you ever known someone who, after a painful breakup, makes grand declarations like, "That's it, I'm never falling in love again. I can't trust anyone anymore," or "Love just isn't worth the suffering"? That person has not healed. They have simply closed their heart to avoid feeling vulnerable. Instead of learning from their experience and becoming wiser, they choose to live in a state of constant, exhausting self-protection, sabotaging any chance of real connection for fear of being hurt again. But I ask you, what is the point of protecting yourself from the pain of love if, in the process, you also deprive yourself of its immense joy? If you want to truly heal, you cannot take a shortcut around the pain. You must walk directly through it. You must give yourself permission to feel the crushing weight of sadness, the hot sting of anger, the bittersweet ache of nostalgia. You must accept that it is profoundly normal to miss someone who was once an important part of your life's landscape. You must allow each emotion to rise, to be seen, to be honored, and to pass through you without trying to block its path. The pain you accept and process eventually dissolves. The pain you repress becomes a heavy burden you carry for years. Do not be afraid to feel. Do not punish yourself for being sad. Do not believe the lie that because you have made the brave decision to let go, you no longer have the right to experience grief. Only when you allow yourself to feel without clinging to the identity of a sufferer can you truly, deeply heal. Many people mistakenly believe that the only way to avoid future suffering is to close their hearts permanently. They decide they will never trust again. They conclude that it is better not to risk the fall. They construct impenetrable walls around their hearts, so they will never again have to feel the pain of loss. But this is not a solution. It is a self-imposed life sentence of solitude. Protecting yourself from love does not make you stronger. It only makes you more alone. If you have been hurt, if you have had to let someone go, if love has left you with scars, that does not mean it will always be so. Every person who enters your life is a new and different experience. Every connection has a unique lesson to teach you. Every story is its own universe. If you close yourself off because of what happened in the past, you are denying yourself the possibility of experiencing something infinitely better in the future. Do not allow one negative experience to define your entire capacity to love. Do not allow fear to be the author of your life story. Do not allow the pain of your past to become the reason you refuse to open your heart tomorrow. Because healing is not just about letting go of the pain. It is about courageously learning to trust again. This is where many people get confused about detachment. They think it means becoming cold, indifferent, and distant. They believe that to avoid suffering, they must sever every emotion at its root. That to heal, they must convince themselves they never truly cared in the first place. But true detachment is not disconnection. It is not about becoming immune to your emotions, but about learning to experience them without becoming a prisoner to them. It is not about forgetting what you lived, but about learning from it without the poison of resentment. It is not about stopping to love, but about finally understanding that love was never something you were meant to possess. Carl Jung articulated that the key to emotional freedom is to integrate your experiences without clinging to them. It is the ability to be grateful for what was, without feeling the compulsive need to relive it. It is learning from what you lived, without carrying the fear of repeating it. It is leaving space for the new, without being burdened by the old. That is what healing is. It is not running away from love, but finding a healthier, more whole way to experience it. It is not hardening your heart, but learning to feel without depending. It is not forgetting who you loved, but letting them go with a sense of gratitude instead of a sense of grief. Love itself is not the problem. The problem has always been in how you have interpreted it until now. If you have consistently lived it from a place of inner lack, you will learn to see it as a source of suffering. If you have experienced it primarily through the lens of attachment, you will come to believe that without it, you are nothing. If you have used it to fill the voids within you, you will feel that without the other person, a part of you is broken. But when you finally learn to love without fear, without dependence, and without the need for possession, you will realize a profound truth. Love is not something that comes to you from the outside. Love was always and will always be inside of you. And when you truly understand that, you will never again be afraid to let go. The alchemy of growth, transforming pain into power now that you understand that letting go is not an act of losing, and that healing is not an act of closing your heart. One final, crucial question remains: how do you transform this entire painful process into real, tangible growth? Because letting go and healing should not leave you empty and hollowed out. They should serve as a crucible that forges you into someone stronger, more conscious, and more whole. The pain of letting someone go can feel like a raw, open wound. It can cause you to doubt your own worth, to endlessly question what you did wrong, to replay memories on a torturous loop in your mind. But there is something you must understand on a soul, deep level. Suffering is only destructive when you do not use it as a catalyst for growth. As Carl Jung wisely stated, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. The experiences that hurt us the most do not arrive in our lives to destroy us. They come to show us something we had previously refused to see. They come to pull us out of the comfortable but stagnant waters of what was familiar and push us toward a higher level of awareness. They come to teach us what we desperately need to learn about ourselves. But so many people get stuck in their pain. They make a home out of their suffering. They relive it again and again, using it to justify their distrust and cynicism. They identify so deeply with their suffering that they eventually fuse with it, making it a core part of their identity. But this is where you have a choice, a sacred choice. You can allow the pain to consume you, or you can use it as the very fuel for your transformation. Think of your pain as a master teacher, one who offers lessons you cannot afford to ignore. Every experience you have lived through, every loss, every disappointment, has left an imprint on you. Maybe you finally learned that you cannot outsource your happiness to someone else. Maybe you discovered that your lack of personal boundaries led you to lose yourself completely in the relationship. Maybe you realized, with painful clarity, that you had been settling for far less than you truly deserved. Your pain has a purpose. It is holding up a mirror to a part of yourself you had not wanted to see. And if, instead of asking the victim's question, "Why did this happen to me?" you begin to ask the Creator's question, "What can I learn from this?" everything changes. Now, the pain is no longer a punishment. It is a powerful tool for your evolution. If the experience left you feeling insecure, use that insecurity as motivation to build an unshakable confidence that is rooted in yourself. If it made you feel like you lost your direction, use that disorientation to reconnect with what you truly want out of your life. If it taught you that you gave far too much of yourself without receiving the same in return, use that lesson to finally learn how to establish and maintain healthy, self-honoring boundaries. Every scar you carry is a testament to the fact that you went through something difficult and you survived. But the difference between someone who remains trapped in the past and someone who has truly evolved lies in how they decide to use that experience. Many people carry the mistaken belief that when they let someone go, they lose a part of themselves. But the profound truth is that when you truly let someone go, you find yourself. Because letting go is not about forgetting what you lived. It is about learning to move forward without being trapped in the story. And this is where the real transformation happens. If, after a painful experience, you remain exactly the same person, it means you have not yet learned the lesson it was sent to teach you. But if you allow that experience to catalyze your growth, then nothing you lived was in vain. Here is the key. The pain should not make you harder. It should make you wiser. You should not close yourself off to the possibility of love. You should learn to love without fear. You should not stop trusting people. You should learn to recognize who is truly worthy of your trust. You should not carry the heavy burden of resentment. You should learn to let go with a sense of gratitude for what was lived and what was learned. Life is not about avoiding pain. It is about learning from it, transforming it, and converting it into something that makes you stronger. Your story does not end here. If you are currently going through a process of detachment, if you feel that letting someone go is costing you more than you ever imagined, I want you to remember something. You are not losing, you are evolving. You are not leaving a part of you behind. You are discovering a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. You are not giving up on love. You are learning to experience it in a healthier, more wholehearted way. You are not condemned to repeat the same suffering. You are acquiring the wisdom necessary to never fall into the same patterns again. And now, I want you to ask yourself this powerful question. How are you going to use this experience to grow? Because the story that you lived can no longer be changed, but the new story that you are going to write, starting right now, depends completely and entirely on you. And this is where the most important step of all comes in. Moving forward with a sense of fullness, without fear and without chains. The path forward, building a life where attachment is no longer a chain detaching from someone, is not just about the act of letting go of a relationship. It is about the profound internal act of letting go of the idea that you need someone else to feel complete. It is a sacred return to yourself. It is the reclaiming of your energy. It is learning to live from a place of expansive freedom and not from a place of constricting dependence. But so many people, even after they have formally let go, remain emotionally and mentally chained to the past. They spend their nights reviewing old memories. Deep down, in the quietest corners of their heart, they keep hoping that person will return. They cling to the fantasy of what could have been, and without even realizing it, they turn their detachment into a silent, agonizing weight. But here is the absolute truth. You cannot move forward while you are constantly looking over your shoulder. You cannot build something new and beautiful if you are still living in the ruins of the old. You cannot feel truly free if you are still carrying the invisible chains of attachment. Imagine someone who ends a relationship. To the outside world, they say they have let the person go, that they are fine, that they have moved on. But every night, they scroll back through their last conversation, searching for clues. Every time they hear a song that reminds them of that love, a familiar knot tightens in their stomach. Every time they meet someone new, they hold them up against the ghost of the person they lost. And the new person always falls short. On the surface, it appears they have moved on, but in their mind, they are still deeply enmeshed. They are still replaying every detail, wondering what they could have done differently. They are still hoping, in some secret part of themselves, that destiny will grant them another chance. They still feel that without that person, something essential within them is no longer the same. This is not freedom. This is a subtle and insidious emotional prison, where the past maintains absolute control over the present. And the most dangerous part of this is that we often do not even realize we are still chained. We convince ourselves that we are fine, that time will eventually solve it, that the pain will fade on its own. But I want you to ask yourself this question with radical honesty. Have you truly let go, or have you just gotten used to carrying the memory? If you think of someone you have lost and feel a deep, aching void inside of you, I want you to remember something crucial. That person did not create that void. That void has always been yours. The only difference is that while that person was in your life, you believed they filled it. You believed their love provided something you did not know how to give yourself. You believed their presence conveniently covered up a part of you that you did not want to face. That is why, when they left, it felt like you lost more than just a person. It felt like you lost a part of yourself. But here is the truth that few are willing to accept. No one else can fill you. If you feel a void, the solution is not to frantically search for someone else to plug the hole. The solution is to have the courage to turn inward and discover what part of yourself you are still abandoning. Because if you do not, you will continue to repeat the same painful cycle. You will cling to the next person with the desperate hope that this time it will be different. You will build the entire edifice of your happiness on the foundation of another relationship, believing that if this one works out, you will finally be safe from suffering, and you will lose yourself in someone else all over again, without ever realizing that the only relationship that ever truly needed healing was the one you have with yourself. Imagine waking up every single day with the unshakable certainty that nothing and no one external to you defines your well-being. Imagine being able to love freely and deeply without the gnawing fear of loss, because you understand that no one can ever take away the love and wholeness you have already cultivated within yourself. Imagine being truly, genuinely free, not because you have no connections, but because your connections no longer spring from a place of need, but from a place of joyful, overflowing fullness. That is what it means to truly move on. It is not about forgetting the people who were important to you. It is not about becoming indifferent or cold. It is not about pretending that you were not hurt when you lost them. It is about learning that love is not measured by the depth of your suffering when someone leaves. It is about remembering that your intrinsic value does not fluctuate depending on who is in your life or who has gone. It is about reclaiming your divine power. Life goes on, with or without them. The real question is, are you going on with it? There are people who spend their entire lives looking back, their gaze fixed on a story that has long since ended. They are still waiting for answers that will never come. They still feel a poignant nostalgia for something that, in reality, was never as perfect as their memory has made it seem. And all the while, life itself is moving forward, offering new sunrises, new opportunities, new connections. Every day you spend anchored to the past is a day you lose from your precious present. Every time you cling to the memory of someone who is no longer there, you are closing the door to what new and wonderful things could arrive. Every time you convince yourself that you cannot be happy without that person, you are robbing yourself of the chance to discover the incredible truth that you can. So, tell me, how much longer are you going to give your life's energy to what no longer is? How much longer will you allow the chains of attachment to keep you tethered to a story that has already reached its conclusion? How much longer are you going to postpone your own true freedom? Because when you really, truly decide to move on, something profound and irreversible changes within you. You realize that you have no need to go back to what you were, because you are now in the process of building something infinitely better. You realize that love was never lost, because it has always resided within you. You realize that life is not taking anything away from you. It is simply showing you that you are powerful enough to be happy without depending on anyone else. That is true liberation. It is when you understand that no one can complete you because you were born complete. It is when you stop expecting something external to fill a void that only you have the power to heal. It is when you realize that love is not possession, it is presence. It is not need, it is choice. On that day, attachment ceases to be a chain. On that day, you stop being a prisoner of a story that has already ended. On that day, you begin to live for real. So, tell me, are you ready to stop looking back and finally start moving forward without fear? Because when you understand this, there is no turning back. You move on, but this time you do so without chains.